Video 12, right at the beginning, really just because I feel I need a place to say this, and this is now good a time as any to say it. But I've mentioned a lot about the story and how I kind of intended it to go at the time, but not how it would be interpreted knowing what I... Not how it would be interpreted how the story ended up. And in that regard, it's that our friend, at this point in the series, is genuinely our friend. He is exceedingly long-lived. He knows his way around the world, how to manipulate things, and he is essentially some form of god. However, he has never been to this world before with these rules. So everything you're saying is actually things where you are teaching him. And he looks up to you as some kind of friend and mentor, showing him how the world works. As the series goes on, he actually, I should say as the season goes on, he slowly learns a little bit more and more about how to use his own powers and abilities in this world. Really, all I'm doing right now in the video is pointing out all the various inconsistencies, but this whole map blink right here was essentially one of the first instances of our friend flexing his power a little bit. He changed and manipulated the world, but this is all coming back to how powerful he actually is, and that he just doesn't really know how to use that kind of power in this new world. Which is why he's actually looking up to us and seeing us as a friend and a kind of mentor. Now, some of our friend's personality does show here, maybe not right here specifically, but it does show, in that he is very much like a very young child, which is exactly what he is. He's a child so young that he's not yet even developed empathy. And in being a child that young, he is generally very selfish and very self-centric. Kind of the world belongs to him kind of a mindset. Video 12, about 9 minutes 30 seconds in, I'm saying something to try to keep myself awake because these videos are terribly boring to marathon. But you'll notice when I broke down that little dirt pillar, beneath the bottom dirt block there was actually grass and not dirt. The grass didn't go away. I do believe someone actually even pointed this out in the comments, but that's because I had crap to do. I didn't feel like standing there all day, and I had too many items on, so I just clicked it over to night real quick. Making it daytime through too many items didn't give the grass enough time to actually die off, but had I stayed there for an entire night, that would have easily died off by morning. About 12 minutes 50, 12 minutes 40 seconds in, I actually, to video 12, I should say I'm still on 12. But I actually mention the sun setting in the west and the map's orientation regarding that. Now, a lot of people actually mistakenly believe that the sun does not set in the west in Minecraft. And that is incorrect. It does indeed set in the west. In fact, that's what determines what west is. That is how west is defined. Instead of that being incorrect, what was incorrect and what threw a lot of people off in early on was that maps were originally oriented incorrectly. They were oriented with north being on, I think, the left side of the map. This, of course, instead of people thinking that north was on the west side of the map, instead just thought that north was in a different direction, which is clearly the best solution to that problem. It's since been fixed in a patch. Now maps are indeed oriented in the correct direction. though that's a stigma that I think a lot of people are having trouble getting past. But to everyone out there, it is correct now. The sun sets in the west, the top of the map is north. 15 minutes, 40 seconds in, once again, you see the grass at the bottom of the pillar once I destroy it.
We are on our way again.
But then that immediately takes us over here to where we first meet Doggy. Now, this was actually a troublesome little part here, because you do have to tame a wolf with bones. And I do successfully tame one
I did manage to pick up some
after a few attempts.
But
I do successfully tame one, but what I didn't realize is when you tame one, the dog sits down immediately. Despite the fact that I was staring straight at him, this didn't occur to me. I was expecting him to follow me. You see a fade right there, and that's because I wanted the dog to follow after me, and then I just stop and turn around and go, oh, the dog, loves me now and wants to follow me. But it wasn't following me. So I actually had to fade cut as I went back, told him to stand up, and then walked forward again.
Alright then, so completely
Video 12, 24 minutes into the video. When I run into the second NPC village, I was actually very much not expecting to run into one. The fade edit there was me dealing with it. And by dealing with it, I mean depopulating the village, so that there were no NPCs in it. Now, narrative-wise, what's going on here is that our friend is actually very selfish, as I've mentioned before. He did not take kindly to the idea of me meeting and speaking and hanging out with other people. I was actually very glad that we did not get the other village, the first one we ran into on the way home, on the map. That kind of left it in this air of mystery, wondering if it's even up there, since we went by that way but didn't see it. Actually, as it turns out, the village is still up there. It's just a little bit off the top of the map. Video 12, 27 minutes, 45 seconds in. I went through a lot of trouble through this part of the recording. There were several fade cuts back in the house just in me piecing together different parts of this entire recording. And even then, in the end, there is one specific thing that I couldn't find a way to edit around. I'll talk on that more in a second, but I will say, take a look at the 2 blocks of stone in my inventory. Specifically look at the background of it. At one point there, you saw the background kind of freak out a little bit and do a lot of odd things. And the reason for that is because I didn't actually have 2 stone in my inventory there. I'll talk more on that in a moment. Video 12, about 30 minutes in. There were a lot of jump cuts here between various sections, and originally I recorded this all in one sitting, all in one section. A lot of the reason for many of those jump cuts is because I had to re-record parts of them. Specifically the part where I got in the bed and the part back there with the lily pads where I actually checked my inventory to find the lily pads. The reason for this is, as I mentioned before, I didn't actually have 2 stone in my inventory there for the vast majority of this. However, with those 2 sections, with the bed, I actually had highlighted that section of my inventory, which made it very odd and very hard to edit around, so I had to re-record that section. On the other hand, when I actually checked my inventory for the lily pads, that was something else that was almost impossible to edit around, so I re-recorded that little section. But all of this is setting up to essentially cover a mistake of my own that I know I never would have heard the end of.
Be a nice way to sprint back
Video
home.
12, 33 minutes in. Now, even back at the house, long time ago, before we first left with the bed, I made another edit there, where I edited out what I had done in the chest. And I did this because that was the earliest possible time that I could have changed my inventory to put something different in that slot, hence the 2 stone.
Doggy.
What it was is that I actually had chicken on me this entire time. When our dear doggy gets mortally wounded up here, for whatever reason, my brain was thinking you had to give the dog bones to heal him. I know it doesn't make any sense. But as such, I completely ignored the idea that I had meat on me. Now, you heard the explosion there, and that is what indeed hurt our small doggy. Now, I could have healed it right that moment because I had chicken on me, but I wasn't that bright.
Doggy, we are getting you home.
This
right
was,
now.
however, entirely random. I did not stage any of this to happen. Not this, and not what happens when I get back to my house. And all this editing was done to save this purely natural event.
You're gonna be okay, doggy.
However, I will also note that our pet dog there wasn't actually hurt on camera. So we don't know for certain what hurt him. You heard the sound of a creeper, but even then you never actually saw the creeper, and you never saw the creeper explode. Though completely random and not intentional in the least, I hold that this is once again our friend being selfish, and very much not liking the idea of us having a friend greater than he, having someone that we really want to spend time with, having someone that we enjoy spending time with. So he had to remove that from the equation. Video 13, 15 seconds in. There's a brief pause. I also never really explained where I got that rose from, but I also figure it's not terribly important. I could have picked it off screen, knowing full well that I was going to bury Doggy. But there's a brief pause there before our friend seemingly asks, "What are we going to do today?" I repeat what he's saying so the viewer knows what he said, but especially in dealing with the death of a dear friend, that's a very insensitive thing to say. And that was intentionally done. Is once again, our dear friend did not care about Doggy. He did not care about that. He cared about us and keeping us for himself, as well as us continuing to entertain him. Now, just a few moments later, about a minute and a half into the video, when I'm looking over the achievements, one thing that I very much didn't like doing, and it was alright doing in survival because it was still kind of under the guise of a game. I still hadn't completely dropped the guise of the game, but one thing I very much hated to do was go to the escape menu. And I hated doing this because at the bottom of it, the bottom option says save and quit, which tells you right away, yeah, this is a game. So if you saw that, especially in the later seasons, if you saw that menu, it would immediately go, why is he being so taken in by all of this? Why is he being so effective and emotional about this? It's a game. It says right there he can save and quit. There's not really any other way to... There's not really any other way to look at the achievements, though. And it still worked at this point in the game, so it was alright. Video 13, 5 minutes, 30 seconds in, I'm actually talking about how good my own night vision is. And that was me kind of playing off the editing color correction problems that I was having before. Where I could actually see a fair amount. I could actually see pretty well in the dark, but the viewer could not. I did turn brightness up all the way, so you could practically see in the dark easily, but it still didn't really help the issue overall. Video 13, 20 minutes, 20 seconds in. I actually never had a consistent way of getting this achievement, and that's a lot of what caused me so much trouble with getting this one. I tried doing the snowball bit off screen, and it simply did not work. I had zero luck getting it to work. The odd thing about this little scene here is I was getting so frustrated trying to get this to even work at all that I had a couple YouTube videos up that I was watching, trying to figure out how someone else did this and how I could get a decent idea off of them. Now, once I finally figured out a decent idea on how to do this and started recording, I never muted the game, or I never muted YouTube. I was so used to it just kind of running in the background by this point. So pretty much during this entire scene, I actually had a YouTube video playing in the background, and Fraps would have picked that up. So I actually had to mute all game sound for this segment because of that stupid mistake. I'll also add that at this point when I was recording, Fraps, I was recording commentary and game audio simultaneously with Fraps, so there was no way to separate them, so that entire pig segment was actually post-commentary. Still video 13, 23 minutes, 20 seconds in. I had actually never done this achievement before. When I did my original achievement run, they had not yet added the Sniper Duel achievement. So, in not knowing how to do this one, this is another one I had a huge amount of trouble trying to figure out and precisely get it down so I could actually do this. And this is actually the second point in the series that I died. However, this was due to my own silly mistake. You see, I was flying around in creative mode building various contraptions to see what would work. And at one point, I had to sit down. I turned off creative mode just so I could tamper with my inventory real quick. And as I did, a creeper walked up and blew me up. So that was the second time I actually had to go back, and mid-recording this time, I had to find a way to replicate my inventory. So I watched back the recording and figured out exactly what my inventory was up to that point, and mimicked not only my inventory, but had to mimic my level as well. Now, I've mentioned I died a few times, and I did, though mostly off-screen and in ways where I was experimenting something on my own. But it got to be a point where I actually needed experience back in a consistent way. And I found the best place to do that, the easiest way to do that, is something that I made myself over this way. I tried to hide it away so it was something people generally wouldn't see in the actual video. But right over here, hidden underneath this little overhang here, I have a small area that I could slide in. And what I would do is I would sit here in creative mode with monster eggs and a diamond sword, and I'd spawn the monster, kill it, spawn the monster, kill it, spawn the monster, kill it, over and over and over again. I had to do this with, I did this with skeletons at first, but it only took me about one trip before I realized that blazes are easily the best experience in the game. Now, this would have been solved very easily if I had used single-player commands again, but again, at this point in the series, I wasn't using that consistently yet. That didn't happen until about halfway through the second season. Video 14, 40 seconds in, when I'm making the next map, I actually mention if you click on it in a specific way, you can create a duplicate map. I didn't actually say the key combination. Once again, this was to not break immersion. Were I to say that you have to shift-click it, which is what you have to do, you have to shift-click the map and then you get it. I don't know if it still works that way, but at the time it did. But if I said you have to shift-click it, simply me acknowledging that the shift key exists, there is a keyboard that you are holding shift on, just breaks immersion a little. Video 14, about 24 minutes in, I'm detailing the strategy I used to fight the Enderman. A lot of this comes from that the only experience that I actually had fighting Endermen was on a server. And for whatever reason, while on a server, you cannot attack an Enderman's feet. So needing to attack them in the chest is why I wanted to lower the outside down by one. A number of people told me that you could just attack their feet, but this only works in single player. I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know much about fighting them at the time. Video 15, 2 minutes, 35 seconds in, when I'm approaching the village way out here in the middle of nowhere. As I mentioned, I really didn't want to have to create a diamond pickaxe just to get 4 obsidian to make an enchanting table. It just felt ridiculous to me to have to waste 3 diamonds just to get 4 obsidian. If that I were going to use the diamond tool for anything else, it'd be more justifiable, but it wasn't going to be. Now, I know that chests typically don't appear in every kind of house. In fact, they don't appear in a lot of different houses. There's a very specific kind of building in the NPC villages that it will appear in. And that building was not in this village. But I needed that obsidian, so the chest that I find in here was actually planted by me. And of course, not only did I put in the 4 obsidian I need, but I put in some saplings and some apples to make it seem just a little less staged.
4 obsidian, exactly what